The sorrows of Caitriona Balfe Betrayal or fate, the ultimate boredom. Dark days. The sky in Dublin is grey today, no rain, but the wind is quietly tapping against the windows like someone trying to wake her from a long dream. Caitriona Balfe sits in her 16th-floor luxury apartment, holding a cold cup of coffee, her eyes blankly following each car passing by on the street below. It has been 3 months since the final season of Outlander wrapped. 3 months, supposed to be a long-awaited vacation after nearly a decade of hard work, but she feels like she is floating in a zero-gravity zone, aimless, emotionless, and with no one by her side. Behind the spotlight, the fame, the acclaim for her top acting, is a woman who is terrifyingly lonely. Not because she lacks friends, but because she has lost something she dare not name, her trust. Kat used to think she understood life, rational, sharp, independent. But then one day, she discovered that Sam Heughan, her longtime co-star, her best friend, and the person she once thought was her soulmate, had quietly left her, without explanation. Not a single text message. Not a single goodbye. After 7 years of creating the couple Claire and Jamie, the line between acting and real life blurred many times. Sam chose silence as a denial of everything. She once asked him, "What are we outside of work?" He once looked at her with warm blue eyes. "We are destined, Kat." But that destiny passed quietly, replaced by paparazzi photos of him holding hands with a young model in Paris, vague interviews that no longer mentioned her, and a clear distance in his eyes. Kat tried not to let herself be dragged down the emotional abyss. She took on independent film projects, tried her hand at directing, and even recorded a podcast about women in cinema. But those things no longer moved her heart as they used to. One morning, as the dim light filtered into the living room, Kat walked to the mirror, not to put on makeup, but to look at herself. She saw a 45-year-old woman, her long, slightly messy hair, her eyes dark despite a good night's sleep. Not from fatigue, but from emptiness, she touched the glass and whispered, "Is this the price of fame? When everyone thinks you're happy, but inside you don't know who you are." Kat thought of her family. Her phone calls home were now rare. Her mother would ask, "Are you okay, Caitriona?" "I'm okay," she replied. But she wasn't okay. She had been in love. In love with art, in love with her co-stars, in love with life. But that love had become a habit. Acting was no longer an exploration, but an obligation. Meeting new people was like programming. Everything, no matter how luxurious, how splendid, was as steady as breathing in a windowless room. A friend in the industry had warned her, "Kat, you are entering the deepest pit of an artist, not failure, but boredom." She had laughed at the time, haughtily. "Are you bored? Your life is an adventure." But now, in the slow ticking of the clock, she understood. What kills desire is not defeat, but the sense of meaningless repetition. Suddenly, the phone rang. A text message from an unknown number. "If you still miss Loch Lomond, come there. There is something that was never said." Kat was stunned. Her heart slowed a beat. Sam? Is it him? After all this time? She hesitated. Then she read the message again. Is it a joke? Or a chance to understand what really happened? Kat was not one to give in to weakness. But she was never one to let things go unanswered. And if it was a part of a memory that needed to be closed, then perhaps Loch Lomond, where they had sat under the moon and made promises, would be the place to close that fateful circle. Caitriona sat in the back seat of the silver taxi, looking through the misted windows. The Scottish landscape was like an oil painting, rolling mountains, quiet lakes, and wind-swept pines. Loch Lomond. She had loved this place once, not for the scenery, but for the memories. 7 years ago, on this very lakeshore, on an autumn night, Sam Heughan had touched her heart, not with words, but with a look, with a gentle presence she had never felt with anyone else. And then, like a cut from an invisible blade, he was gone. No goodbye, no reason. The message could have been a joke. But it could also have been the closure she needed. Not to turn back, but to let go. The car stopped in front of a small wooden house, hidden behind a row of pine trees. It was raining lightly. She got out, clutching her wool coat. A dim light came from the window. She walked over. The door opened, unlocked. In the warm room, Sam stood by the fireplace. He turned when he saw her. The first sight in over a year. No camera, no script, no director. She walked slowly in. The door closed behind her. "You really came," Sam said softly, her voice hoarse with emotion. Kat remained silent. She looked at him, the same face, the same eyes, but the same person who had broken her. "Why?" she asked, her voice dry. Sam swallowed. "I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need to tell you, so you can understand. So you can understand why you lost the most precious thing in your life." She folded her arms. "Tell me." He walked over and sat down on the chair across from her. "When Outlander ended, I was terrified. Not because I didn't have a job, but because I didn't know who I was without Jamie Fraser. And without you. So you chose to leave?" Kat laughed dryly. "Or run?" "Both." Sam nodded. "I thought, if I cut it off, it would be easier. But it wasn't easy. It was hell." Kat looked into the slowly burning fire. "Do you know, every morning when I wake up and don't have a message from you, my world feels empty?" Sam bowed her head. "I know, and I'm sorry. I have someone else." She looked him straight in the eye. "No question, just a statement." "No," he said firmly. "There were pictures, there were rumors. But I didn't open up to anyone. I couldn't. After you, there was no one real." The silence stretched. The rain pattered on the wooden roof, like a soft tap on an old wound. Finally, Kat spoke, her voice softer. "What did you call me here for, Sam?" He took a deep breath, his hands clasping tightly on his knees. "Not to ask you to come back, but to ask you to let me go of this burden. I cannot live without telling you. I loved you in a way no role could ever create. And I betrayed that, not by someone else, but by cowardice." Kat looked at him for a long time. Her heart was no longer angry, but not ready to forgive. Something melted, like ice meeting fire, not suddenly, but quietly. She stood up. "I didn't promise anything, but I heard." She turned away. Her hand rested on the doorknob. "Kat," he called, his voice shaking. "Thank you for coming." She turned her head, her eyes soft but distant. "You're the only one who ever made me feel not alone, not even for a minute in the scene. That's why I came. Not for you, for the one I loved." She stepped outside. The rain was still falling, cold but fresh. The wind blew harder as she left the cabin, and for the first time in months, her chest felt lighter. Behind her, Sam didn't follow. He knew she needed space. And maybe she needed time to distinguish between love and what was only a beautiful memory.